What's going on, guys? Chase here, and in today's video I've got a GoPro Hero 9 with me because I am going to show you guys how to maximize the video quality you're getting out of this little camera, and I'm going to walk you guys through all of the settings that you need to change to do it. Let's get this thing started. So these little action cameras have been crafted year after year to make them as easy as possible to just turn them on and get the best footage you can. The problem is, that's what everybody does. They get their GoPro, they mount it on whatever thing they want to record, and then they just hit the record button. Now, that's great for the majority of people, but the problem is everybody's footage ends up looking exactly the same. Now, you guys are going to be surprised how just a few settings changes can really maximize the kind of video you can get out of a little action camera like the GoPro. Now guys, I've been using GoPros since the very first GoPro was even released, and I can prove it to you. So this is the first GoPro. It's had a hard life, but the point is I've been using GoPros a ton over on my Chase on Two Wheels YouTube channel, which is my motorcycle channel. We use GoPros over there on almost a daily basis, so we've got a lot of experience in fine-tuning the image that we want to get out of these things. So over on that channel, our goal is to make the footage that we're doing in our videos look as natural as possible. We want people to be able to experience as close to real life as they can, so we want all the colors to be natural. So that's what we typically do with GoPros. Now, if you are looking to do something more cinematic with your GoPro footage, all of the settings changes that I'm going to be showing you guys today can still apply to you because it's still going to increase your overall image coming out of the camera. Now guys, before we get into the settings, I do have to talk about one of the most important things you need to get really good GoPro footage, and that is an ND filter. For the Hero 9 here, we have the Polar Pro ND filter kit. It comes with an 8, a 16, and a 32. So typically we leave the ND 8 on the GoPro, but you can use up to 16 in a bright and sunny condition. I wouldn't really recommend going up to 32. What this is going to do is act as a sunglasses for your GoPro, because the GoPros work best in a very bright situation, like being outdoors on a sunny day or even a cloudy day. That's when the GoPro works best, and the ND filter is going to be very helpful for one of the settings we're going to change later on. So I'll have links in the description to check out this ND filter kit. The GoPro Hero 9 has actual click-on ND filters, and they work phenomenally. It is my absolute favorite GoPro to use ND filters on, and these Polar Pro have been really good so far for us. So highly recommend those. Link down below, only if you have a Hero 9 though. I don't know if they have Hero 8s or not. You guys can look. All right, so we got the GoPro turned on. We are going to get into the settings here. So to get to the settings and all the video stuff, this little bar here at the bottom, we're gonna click that. I always film on cinematic, so if you hit this little pen icon to the right, that's gonna open up all the settings. So this is where you can change all your settings on the GoPro. So here on the Hero 9, we'll start with our frames per second, or RES-FPS. So I film in 4K 24 frames a second, and the GoPro Hero 9 can shoot up to 5K, but I have found that I really love Super View, which is the lens option that you see. I feel like that gives you a very realistic look of what maybe a rider would see, because remember, all of my GoPro settings are based on wearing this GoPro on the front of a motorcycle helmet. So 4K 24, I get a lot of crap on my channel sometimes because people want me to shoot in 60, but I really enjoy the look of 24 frames a second. I feel like it smooths everything out and makes, I don't know, it gives you the look of what you would experience as you were riding a motorcycle. That's also like the quote-unquote cinematic frames per second, but it's just more pleasing to the eye, at least for me. So like I said, lens is gonna have Super View on. Now with Hyper Smooth, the Hyper Smooth on the Hero 9 is the first one that actually works well even using it on a helmet. Previous GoPro Hyper Smooths had this weird jello-y effect that happened sometimes if you had it on while you had it on your helmet. I don't know what kind of algorithmic changes GoPro did with their Hero 9, but I keep Hyper Smooth on and it still looks really natural, and there's no jello-y effects, or at least that I've been able to see. Moving on to other important things, we have duration. I have no limit. It makes it really easy for us to edit the footage coming out of the GoPro. I would recommend keeping that on no limit. We've got hindsight, timer, and zoom here. None of those are really important. I imagine a lot of you guys are interested in these settings. These are the ProTune settings on the GoPro, and this is where stuff gets really important. So bitrate, that means how high is the data gonna be being written to a card. You want that as high as it'll go. You can see here I've got it on high. That's as high as it'll go. You want the most data written to your SD card. Next up, we see shutter is on auto. Now remember, I'm recommending you guys to use ND filters either 8 or 16, and that's going to act like sunglasses on your GoPro, and the shutter is going to automatically compensate to expose your footage correctly, regardless if you have an ND16 or an ND8. What that's gonna do is dictate how much motion blur you have in your GoPro. I have found that I just stick ND8s on my GoPro all the time, and whether it gets cloudy outside or it's direct sun, ND8 always works, and the shutter gives it a really good amount of motion blur. Now, I've seen 16 work, but the motion blur is a little too extreme with 16 for me, which is why I stick with 8. But regardless, as far as settings go, you need to have that shutter on auto. That way it can adjust for lighting conditions in case the sun comes out and then it needs to stop the shutter down or speed it up, something like that. EV compensation, I have 0. I feel like the GoPro does a pretty good job of keeping the exposure correct, so I keep that at 0. White balance, again, the GoPro does a pretty good job of sticking the white balance to what it should be. Typically, I would, put that at like 5K or something like that. But what I ended up having was I'd be riding a motorcycle and it would be sunny outside where 5K looked great. And then the sun would dip behind a cloud, and then the footage would get a little blue because I don't have ability to change my white balance while I'm riding. And overall, I would just keep the white balance in auto. I've had really good luck with that. Next up, super freaking important with a GoPro, is the ISO min and ISO max. So if you guys that don't know, the more ISO that you add into your camera, the more noise you get. GoPros are notorious for being trash in low light conditions. So what I'm setting the GoPro up to do here is never go below 100 ISO and never go above 400 ISO. I have found that the 400 ISO mark on a GoPro is about as high as you want to go before you start introducing a lot of noise, and it's going to start tearing your image apart. This is one of the most important things you can do on your GoPro to make sure your image quality stays as high as possible. So something to note, because obviously I don't know what you guys are going to be using your GoPros for, that ISO max, if you're going to consistently be shooting in darker conditions, I would recommend upping that. You are going to have noisier footage, but ISO 400 is not going to give you a lot of low light ability. But remember, I would suggest you use an entirely different camera than a GoPro. It's really not great for those conditions, so just be ready for that. Next up, we have sharpness. You can add sharpness in your editor, so I keep sharpness on medium. I used to have it on low, but I found out if I keep it on medium, I don't have to add any sharpness at all. Now, again, that's a preference situation, so I like it at medium. You guys might like it on low and want that flexibility of adding more sharpness in post. So I would start with medium. If you don't like the look, go to low. I just would not recommend high, because you can't take sharpness away really, but you can add it. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding on your sharpness level. All right guys, so next up is the color. Now, I realize that I'm talking about getting the best footage out of your GoPro, and I'm telling you to use GoPro color instead of the flat color profile. Keep in mind, when I told you guys I'm telling you my settings for GoPro, the situation I'm in is I run a production company here making YouTube videos, and we have a very fast turnaround. I have personally found that GoPro's automatic color does a really good job of rendering natural colors, and it's very similar to what I see with my eye. And if my whole goal is to give somebody an experience of riding a motorcycle, I want the reds to be the right red, I want the greens to be the right green, and I find that GoPro color does a really good job, and I have to do very minimal work in my editor to kind of fine tune that. If it's a tweak, it's very tiny tweaks, and that allows us to really up the production turnaround time. So I use GoPro color and it comes out great. I highly recommend it. If you guys really enjoy color grading, by all means use flat, but I will say I have never gotten the flat profile to look like GoPro color. Obviously I'm not a color grader and all that kind of stuff. I do very minimal of that stuff because I'm not good at it. But if you're good at it and you enjoy that kind of thing, by all means use flat. I've had really good success with GoPro color. The final things on here are the raw audio and the wind. The wind is going to dictate what microphones are used, and the raw audio on high All that's going to do is the GoPro is going to record a separate audio file that is the exact same type file as the video files. You just have an audio only file. Now, I don't necessarily need those files, and I should probably turn that setting off, but if you are going to be into a setting where you want a higher quality audio that goes with your GoPro video, have that on. You know what? I'm going to do it right now on camera. I'm going to turn this off so I don't have to deal with extra files. All right, raw audio off. Boom, problem solved and done. And guys, I think that brings us to the end of all the settings on the GoPro here. If this video helped you guys out, it is a huge help to us if you hit that like button and subscribe for more camera related content. Remember, change all those settings up, grab some ND filters, and you guys get out there and shoot with some GoPros. If you guys have any suggestions for videos, make sure to drop them in the comments down below. We've been getting a lot of comments of you guys asking certain types of videos for us to make. So we have some videos we want to make, but we also want to be making the videos that are going to help you guys out the most. So drop any ideas in the comments down below. And if they're good, we'll add them to our list. Actually, on our last video, we did a review of the best do-it-all lens, the Canon CNE 18-80. And Small Bore and Two Wheels suggested he would really like to see the difference between our fancy C200 camera you're using for our full camera car and a budget camera. So maybe we'll have to show the difference with camera car footage of a C200 and a more budget camera. He gave the example of Canon's M50. So Small Bore and Two Wheels, that was a really good idea. We're gonna have to add that to the list. And guys, I'm Chase. We'll see you guys in the next one. Later.